Namaste, one and all, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I know you guys have not been waiting for another football frenzy, but guess what it is? It is another football frenzy. The Premier League is just around the corner. La Liga has already started. Leagues across Europe are starting. MLS already started back for the second half after the All Star game, and we are already in full flow for football frenzy. So, taking on that flow just before Raiders and pretty much all the NFL teams play their second preseason game. So stay patient with me. I promise. Like I have promised, you know, recently, quick takes is just around the corner. Once it is here, I am gonna need your guys' support. So get ready to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with a stranger. Just anybody. Just get the word out. Help your boy out, and we are gonna move along. This time it is about the Premier League 26-27 season already here. Crazy to think about, but like I mentioned, it is already here. So let's get right into it. This time we're not going to go through the whole Premier League. Last year we did. Some were right, some were wrong. For the most part, though, I was pretty right. However, the Premier League is very, very volatile. So we're going to keep it to the top six. It's not the traditional top six, but you guys are going to be surprised. There are a lot of surprises. I mean, some fan bases might, try to eviscerate me for, underrating their team or overrating other teams or whatever the case may be. Stay tuned for the ride. Find out what it is for yourself. Let's get into it. Starting off, it is going to be unfortunately back to back Premier League championship for Arsenal. Why do I say that? Because, I mean, attack looked formidable. Midfield just added another world class, really Premier League player in Bruno Guimaraes. Might have just solidified their midfield. You have a left-footed Odegaard. You have a Rice. Now you have a Bruno Guimaraes. You keep the ball away from the other team with possession. You have the other team run around. You're more than gonna just wear them out over the course of the season. That's what Arsenal really did. They didn't really win anything. They just kept a pace that nobody else could keep up with. While Liverpool and City are kind of going through, air changes. Chelsea and Spurs are just completely lost, and United's kind of trying to figure their way out and way back in a sense. So it was for Arsenal to take, and it is again going to be for Arsenal to take. The Saliba injury earlier on, it's going to be something to keep an eye on. But I think with the solidity and the depth that they added last offseason, they should be able to kind of get past that. Looking at the offense, I mean, the attack really should, be better. It shouldn't just be set pieces and corners and, just physical moments to kind of get you a goal scraped by 1-0, whatever the case may be. Sure, you can do that, but it's just not a memorable way to kind of remember, championships. And while Arsenal fans might remember last year's title, in the long run, people might not because it's like it was such a boring title. It was not really a title race, and when it did become a title race, it was more because Arsenal were starting to lose their way, but by the end, kind of kept it together. After that, I am taking my Chelsea Blues. They are coming in second this upcoming Premier League season. Why do I say that? Is it just Alonso ball? No, that plays a part. Him adding Lacroix in the backfield or in the back end, adding Palestra, who was a Serie A Defender of the Year, on the right wing to help out with Gusto with Reece James, who might get unlocked more, as a right center back, as a center mid in some aspects. That makes everybody just a little bit more fluid between Morgan Rogers, Joao Pedro, and Cole Palmer. That's three fluid attacking options. The fullbacks are going to be, moving up on one side to provide the width. The other side's going to drop back down. It's going to be a three back. It's going to be a four back. It's going to be a five back. They're going to, flow based off of situations. Nobody expected Bayer Leverkusen to do what they did in Bundesliga, and it kind of helps out Chelsea getting some of the experienced players back, adding some experienced players in Welbeck and in Hendo. And then the best part for the players and for the manager is in this foundational year, you don't have Europe, so you don't have the pressure of that from the fan base, the pressure of performing or any of that. You have those games to embed this system into your DNA, and we hopefully at least go 2, 3, 4 years without a manager change. Another thing, talk about manager. That is one title that he and Javi Alonso has gotten that previous head coaches, in a sense, that Bluco has hired have not gotten. So in a sense, he has came out in an interview talking about it's a work in progress and it's a collaborative work in progress. We are going to have to see how that goes. There are still outgoings that needs to be done. We're going to see what the future of Pedro Neto looks like, because that unlocks some more minutes for Aquenda, some more minutes for Esteval. And then you still have Enzo Fernandez, who's a big piece, because that's 150 million if he is leaving or something of that sort, at least over 120 million. But also a key piece in a midfield that still lacks, in my opinion, another body after selling Andre Santos. So it's going to be interesting to see. But based off of what happened last season, dropping all the way down to 10th and not having Europe, getting a new manager who has supposedly has the backing of the, you know, front office and Blueco, we're going to have to see them come back to their own standards. Maybe that's just me being a homer and just kind of being disappointed by Chelsea all these years, so I'm kind of trying to push them back. But getting a Nicholas Jackson back to kind of uh, unlock Palmer, because the relationship they had together, getting his best friend in Morgan Rogers in, that just helps unlock your best player. Xabi Alonso has come out in interviews talking about how he wants to unlock Cole Palmer and the best version of him. And there are some other young guys to kind of keep an eye out for. Reggie Walsh, Achimpong, see what minutes he gets amongst other players. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now it's on the players. Well, yeah, it's just on the players to go perform, and it's on the managers to kind of keep the ship steady throughout the whole process. Even if the fans, after a few losses, start losing their way, the manager has to come out and get us back together. Should be interesting to see how that comes out. Number three, I had been kind of flip flopping between a couple of teams here and there, but I think it is time to start giving him his respect. Unai Emery, I am leading with. Why do I go there? Because after Mikel Arteta, I think at the top he is the most tenured manager across all those clubs. We're going to look at other clubs, but from the ones I mentioned, Xabi Alonso, brand new. Mikel Arteta, like I mentioned, the only one. Coming up, Liverpool got a new one in Iraola. Spurs at the end of last season, De Zerbi, but he's still relatively new. City just got Maresca as well. So, all those new managers at the top, like I mentioned, it leaves a little bit of volatility in what the Premier League looks like. But with that being said, I am giving Unai Emery, who came in fourth last year and has been a perennial top four with a team like Aston Villa. Um, Today, the news came out that Ollie Watkins might be sold to Al Hilal. That may be, but I think they got a Brian Brajo. If I said your name wrong, I apologize. But a young French, British-born striker for Mets who looks phenomenal. Possibly, some resemblances to a young Lukaku. They got a Manzambi who had a pretty good World Cup. So that's a young striking attack or attacking duo that you could kind of rely on. Garnacho on loan, see if there's something that's still you could get out of him. And the biggest and the best, I think, of the lot is to be able to keep Ezri Konsa and be able to bring Wan Bissaka. He was one of the better right backs last year, not really getting dribbled past. And he's just on a loan. With West Ham being in the championship, that kind of helped him out. Losing Lucas Dune on the other side, it kind of does hurt him. I know Ian Matson was bought about 35, 40 million a few years ago. He never displaced him. He's still probably going to need a backup just in case Ian Matson gets hurt. So something to keep an eye on that side. But some other moves. Joao Gomes also came in to replace Tielemans. I think that's going to be probably a pound for pound replacement. I think they got 35 on the Tielemans deal. They only spent about 40 for Joao Gomes, who's about, I think 24. I think he's top five in defensive action in Premier League and top five leagues in Europe, something like that. So there's, changes there, but I think Unai Emery is the main catalyst running the whole ship. And I think that stability with him at the helm, I think that gives Villa a chance, even with Europe, to kind of have that continuation of top four, and I think this time they possibly get up to a top three. Next one up, it is going to be Manchester United. I brought them up earlier. They are finding their way back with Michael Carrick. Could they be even ahead, like a number three or a number two? I don't see a number two because I don't think the defense and the depth that they have really allows them to kind of get up there, especially with having Europe. But I think they can finish as much as fourth. I mean, they pretty much got, Tielemans in a very, very, very good deal. Andre Santos on a very, very good deal. I think both of those guys underneath Bruno Fernandez with Kobe Mainu, I think that's a pretty good midfield replacement in a sense. You still have Ugarte that maybe you sell off and you get a replacement there. And then the defense, like I mentioned, I think over time now you're going to have to start focusing on the defense because you have essentially two at every attacking position from Sesko and Wemo, Diallo, Rashford coming back, and everything else in that attack. So maybe now you try to start focusing on defense. You didn't really spend too much money crazily. You didn't go crazy on any big deals. So that kind of lets you, kind of navigate the market. I think Vuskovic has a chance to be a United center back in the future. Him and Yoro maybe are the next, double center back pairing that they go with in the future, and then you look around for fullbacks because you can't really still rely on Luke Shaw, or you shouldn't be. And then same with Diogo Dallo on the other side. They're serviceable, but if you want to get back into the old Champions League level of Manchester United, those are not your fullbacks to kind of get you there. But there is still, like I mentioned, the stability that a manager provides. I think that goes a long way. Embedding the Michael Carrick system last year kind of has helped them out to find an identity to start off this year, and the signing should help out at least early in the season. Bruno Fernandez, I think, has been touted for a move to Turkey or Saudi Arabia, but he has rejected those as well as Manchester United has as well. So maybe it's a one last run for Bruno. Maybe they do something. If they fail in UCL this year, maybe they get to a Europa League and possibly win that within the next 2 years before Bruno leaves. We're gonna have to see. But for this year, I have the number three or number four right behind Aston Villa. At number five, I do have Liverpool. Similar to that, I trust Iraola. I love him as a manager, but the difference is it's a new era across the board. I mean, yes, uh, Arne Slot did win the championship in his first year, but that was really more like a elongated Klopp's second title. It was the same group after that. The group started getting disintegrated. Trent left, Konate's gone. I mean, Virgil van Dijk's essentially the only one left. Allison's still there, I think, but he might be injured. Whatever the case may be, the whole generation of Liverpool from, let's say, 2018 to 2025, now that chapter is kind of ending. And last summer, all the moves that happened, all for Liverpool in the attacking sense, from Isak to Words to Ekatike, all those guys are the new and the future. So we're gonna have to see how it all works around with them. But playing with a Utara, playing with a Semenyo, and having those options at um, Bournemouth with the 4-2-3-1 system that he utilizes, it should be fun to see how those guys get utilized in this new, well, same system in a sense, but a new way of attack and a new way of playing. It might not be the all out rock star ball like Klopp used to play, and how Mohamed Salah kind of insinuated how he wanted to go back to. That's not going to be likely the case, but we're going to see what the new era of Liverpool looks like. 30% for the Amazon and Amit Bhatia deal. So we're going to see, the new era of Liverpool in a sense, from Amazon in ownership, a new manager in Iraola. So we're going to see what the front office and the, backroom support for Iraola looks like. And then we're going to get down to the players. Even there, Virgil van Dijk, like I mentioned, he's getting old. He needs to be replaced soon. Leone and Hake look like they could be a possible future center back pairing, but they are still relatively young. Do you really want to trust on them coming off injuries to go throughout a whole season, especially in the Premier League? It's going to be tough. You might need to go get a couple of center backs. But, you know, it's Liverpool. They are still a big club. They still do have talented players across the board. Some of those players need to show out and show forth their price tags or their quality or something of that sense to their fan bases, to themselves, and prove that they are worthy of that level. We're gonna see the depth in midfield and defense. It does kind of worry me, but I think a refound attack and a reworked attack, I think, kind of helps them out in that sense there. Down at number 6, it is the Spurs. I do not have Man City in my top 6. It is, I think, going to be a very, very, very difficult year for them with all the changes from players to a staple in Pep Guardiola. We see the difference in Liverpool once, and they had to go through. They already went through a second manager since Klopp has left, or they went through to a second manager since Klopp left. So just because Maresca knows Pep Guardiola doesn't mean that's going to be, a guaranteed success, because that could have maybe Eric Ten Hag could have came, but that did not happen. Going back to Spurs, however, getting De Zerbi at the end of last season, having that survival with him, I think that brings the players closer together. That brings his ideologies closer together, and then they added with the depth, adding a Van Hecke, adding a Senesi from Bournemouth as well for free, adding a Robbo on the left side. Right back's going to be question mark because after Poros, I mean, Spence, who had a phenomenal World Cup, selling him for about 35, 40 million. Sure, it was a good deal, but I think you could have got a lot more for him from a Premier League team, as well as possibly keeping him instead of Pedro Porro, though he is a world champion. So there is something you could kind of work around with. Maybe your left side kind of falls deeper with Udogi, and then you release Pedro Porro on the right side. But for Spurs, it is going to be their attack. It is going to be possibly their midfield. That while they did add two pretty much 85 plus $1 million players in Fernandez and Tonali, that should help them out control midfield a little bit. But I think it's you got your Xavi Simons, James Madison keep on getting injured. Kulusevski hopefully comes back from injury. Mohamed Kudu's an injury prone guy in a sense since moving there. Odeberg got hurt last year, and Mateus Tell has not been the healthiest since moving there either. So let's hope if one, two, or any of those guys come through. Let's see if Solanke can give them at least 6 months of straight being on the field. Just any sense in health can kind of catapult them back. It is a big jump going from 17th to 6th, catapulting a team like Man City as well. But when you make those upgrades, when you have a team buy into some stuff like that, you have good vibes from Pedro Porro, like I mentioned, a world champion. Um, and then going back to it, the midfield, I think we worked there. Senesi as a depth, going back to it. So there are pieces. Danzo's still there as a, backup center back. That's now the starters that were are turning into backups because that was essentially what they should have been in a sense. You still have a Sar, you have Bregval and Gray that could be your backup midfield in a sense in cup competition as a young trio. Whatever the case may be, I think they still do have the depth compared to even like a Liverpool, possibly, or even definitely to a City's makeup in a sense to catapult some of those teams and to get up to 6. Going back to talk about that 7th, well, I do have them 7th, possibly 8th. It is Man City that might open the door for Holland leaving, amongst everything else. Phil Foden, what does he look like? Does he get back to playing his best? The defense outside of Gehi, I don't really have that much buy into. Midfield after losing Rodri, what is that going to look like? Is Buadi and Enzo Fernandez going to bring enough physicality, enough control, or something else in that aspect too? Or, something, whatever the dynamic that they want to bring with that to kind of hold together, because I don't think this is a year that City can just go back to winning titles and championships and all that like they did every year with Guardiola. They are going to need a year or two to kind of fix some stuff, retool some areas. I'm going to have to, that midfield attack, you have to figure out who you're keeping, who you're letting go of. Defense probably still has to get worked around as Ruben Diaz ages and some other pieces as well. So there's a lot of moving parts in City's camp for me to kind of trust them in the top 6. Can they still come through? Obviously, like I mentioned, yes, there is a familiarity between Maresca and City Group and, Pep Guardiola and everything else, but that doesn't always come out and work out to be the greatest. Can they still make top 6 with the talent? They still have Erling Haaland. Obviously, they can, but like I mentioned, maybe it's just me being extra pessimistic and just thinking of trying to get Haaland to Real Madrid, but at the same time losing experience of a Rodri, of a Stones, of a Kanji from that locker room, and just in gameplay that goes a long way. So we're gonna have to see. Going back to it, let me summarize it for you guys really quickly. I do have Arsenal, unfortunately, winning the Premier League once again. At number two, I do have my Chelsea Blue coming back to it to get into the conversation, to get into the Champions League next year. After that, I do have Unai Emery's number three, Aston Villa. Moving on to number four, it is Liverpool that I foresee. At number five, or at number four, I do see Manchester United. At number five, I see Liverpool with Andoni Iraola. And at number six, I see Deserves Spurs. After the back to back 17 place finishes, it does sound absolutely ludicrous to have Spurs over Manchester City, but it is just something that I am seeing, maybe not something that you are seeing just yet. Stay tuned to this Premier League season. Let's see how this goes around. I mean, some of these teams have some easy starts in the first five games. That should be able to kind of indicate what the team's identity looks like and kind of be able to tell what the whole course of the 38 game season looks like. Like I mentioned in the beginning, Quick Takes is right around the corner. So stay patient with me. Quick Takes will be back very, very soon for a season four. Before that, however, we're going to have to need you to go like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff in any other videos. We have a lot of football frenzies from this summer. We have a jump off season exclusive. So there's a lot of things that you guys could go watch, go comment on. Like I mentioned, go do all that good stuff on. And you already know what it is. It's your boy. Your boy gonna be back at any time that you guys need me to be. I hope y'all have a fantastic week, and you already know it's all love.